Good afternoon, badass artists. I'm Mia Luyando. Today we are going to work on something that seems to be troubling quite a few of you. We're going to work on the difference between oil and wax pencils and how to blend them. So we're going to do a few lessons on this particular topic, but I thought that we would roll back time. We would jump back to the Ladies of Loradale coloring book. All of you guys seem to enjoy this one a lot. It has a lot of really good portraits in it. And I know that we worked on this one once before when we were studying roses and flowers and how to do, kind of patterned dresses and that sort of thing. But she's got such a cute little face. And what I thought we would do for this lesson is do half of the face in oil pencils and half of the face in wax pencils. And I'll show you the differences, because they blend differently, they layer differently, they have different characteristics. And once you get to know your pencils a little better, that'll help you make kind of a better decision on what your personal style is. Once you know what your personal style is, it kind of helps you know what pencils are going to be best suited for you. Are you a layering kind of person, or do you like to really get in there and blend and mix all the colors together? So let's start with the oil pencils. Now, a lot of you took advantage of that really great Color special they had last week. It was like $8.99 for 36 pencils, and that was what this little box came last week. So I have swatched these. These are oil-based pencils, so we're going to get started. I'm going to just kind of jump right on in. These are the colors that came with the set. Very pretty, very useful, most of them. And they call this a portraits set. And I'll accept, the odd colors, because, when you're working on eyes and that sort of thing. But they didn't give us any greens. They did give us, pretty much everything else. If you're gonna call it just a skin tone set, then I don't like to see those extra blues, greens, purples, that kind of stuff. But if you're gonna call it a portrait set, then definitely give me, a wider variety of eye colors. I get kind of cranky on, you guys know, I get kind of cranky on that stuff. So let's get started with these oils. I'm gonna kind of lay them around so I can grab them pretty quickly. Let's make her sort of a medium. Let's go in kind of a medium shade. We're gonna start with this light umber color. It's number FT128. I think that's an 8. Yeah, 128. I think that I can get that to show up there for you guys. Now I'm gonna zoom in a little bit because we're talking about blending. We've got Fiona the fairy over there with us. She's hanging out, giving us some good fairy mojo today. We're gonna leave her over there as I think this is a good enough zoom for us. Okay, so when you're using an oil pencil, going in gently on your first layer is important, obviously, because the trick to oil pencils is lots of layers. Let me tell you why. When you're working with a waxy pencil, like a Prisma, and that's what we're going to be using on the other side of her face, once you get a layer down, every layer that you put on top of it is going to mix together. They're going to blend. So it's kind of like if you're baking a cake and you're making frosting and you put a bunch of blue in the frosting and then you add some yellow, you're going to get green, right? Well, that's what a wax colored pencil does. It just takes whatever color you give it and it mixes it all up and it gives you a new shade. It's different for oil. Oil wants to be its own color all the time. It's really not trying to mix with anything else. It just wants to be its own unique individual, snowflake. So if you want to change the color, you have to keep building. You have to keep putting another color on top and another color on top and another color on top and changing the shade very slowly and very subtly. So it's almost like a chess game. You kind of have to think ahead. You know, do you want it to have like a really deep, warm, yellowy undertone? Then you kind of have to start with that yellow umber color. Do you want it to have a blue undertone? Do you want this person, you know, this portrait to have that cool, kind of bluish undertone with pinky cheeks and that kind of thing? Then you have to sort of start out with a cooler, pinker, peachier undertone, and you work from there. You're building the layers, the levels of your tone, your undertones up. So that's what we're going to kind of do here. This is, like I said, it's called light umber, and I'm only going to bring it down to where, you know, these shadowy parts of her face start to, you know, touch where the light is hitting her. I just kind of want this to be the recesses where her little curls are shadowy, kind of giving her forehead some shade. So I'm going to bring this down. We're only going to do this side over with the oil pencils, so we can, you know, we can see the difference, we can, you know, feel the difference, we can kind of get through this together. But I want you to definitely see the difference in how you build these colors up. And we're starting with our darkest shade. I usually try and start with the darkest. That way, you know, everything from there on needs to be lighter than this color. You know, that way you don't kind of mess yourself up. You don't kind of get in the middle of your portrait and go, ugh, I think I maybe went a little too dark. You know, you can always go darker if you need to. Working with the grayscale the way we do, the lighter colors really work nicely on this, so it's kind of easy to build our way back up. And that's what we're just about. I'm just about around her little chubby cheek here, and we'll start adding in this next layer. I personally like oil pencils better. There are a few reasons. Oil pencils are harder. They hold their point longer. They tend to break less. You know, you're working away, you're really into it, and all of a sudden crack. You know, and you guys have watched me do that, and I jump because every time, it doesn't matter if it happens 100 times a day, I always jump. It always startles me. Oil pencils break, as a rule, far less. They have a little more binder or something in them, and they hold their point longer, as I said. It doesn't seem to take as much. You get when, you know, I'm like right now, I'm just applying like a light hand. With wax pencils, you get a whole lot of color. It's like, wow, but they're soft. You know, you'll sharpen your wax pencils twice as often as your oil pencils. But you're also noticing that, you know, your pencil's going to go away faster. You know, you're using a lot more pigment. Sometimes they're more vivid. You get a lot more bright colors with wax, but they tend to use up a little quicker because they're softer and more pliant. So we'll explore that. We'll see all of that. And we'll do 2 or 3 of these, you know, blending tutorials on the differences between oils and wax pencils, because, you know, there's no way for you to know if you've never been told. It's kind of throwing you guys out to the wolves. Some people don't even know that there is a difference between pencils. You can usually find it, a lot of times pencils will say on the cover, like Brutfuner says oily pencils or oil-based pencils on the cover. And Prismacolor is pretty famous for being a wax-based pencil. If you're in doubt, if you just don't know, you can always go look at their description, and it'll tell you somewhere. Some pencils are just a combination of the two. They're somewhere in between. A little bit of oil and a little bit of wax. And you'll, as you learn, as you grow in your hobby and your you'll figure out, are you heavy-handed? Is it something that you really don't need something super soft? Are you, do you like to do a lot of layers? Are you really detail-oriented? Does that appeal to you? You'll get to know yourself. Your style will develop, and suddenly you'll be like, I feel more comfortable with wax, or I feel more comfortable with oil. It'll come to you. Just be patient. It's part of the journey. I'm going to go around the eyes a little darker as always. That's just a style thing. And I'm just doing these nice, easy circles. Light hand makes it easier to blend those other colors right into it. It kind of gives us a soft, little blurry effect all the way around. Now I'm going to lay that one up here, and I'm going to grab, this one called Clay Rose. It's number FT114. I don't know if you can see that. It's focusing. Yeah, there we go. Now I'm going to show you the layering effect. Now, if we just come over here and color this by itself, it kind of has, like a purpley color to it. I don't know, can you see that? Let me zoom in real quick. See, it kind of has a purpley color. And what we want is for these two colors to make more of a, well, obviously a flesh tone, but we want it to be kind of a deeper almond is kind of the tone that I'm going for. So we're going to go very lightly over. And see, the two colors don't necessarily grab onto each other and form a new color. There's obviously a layer here. There's like, oh, okay, I've got this. So that if, here, let me see if this makes sense. If I take the eraser, let me back out here. If I take the eraser and very lightly go over that purple, you still have a tiny bit of that dark brown underneath. That we just took one layer of pencil off. So if you felt like you made a mistake with this and you just want to go back and add another, if you go in very lightly, you could just take off one layer. These pencils literally go on layer by layer. I hope I'm helping. I know it's kind of a hard thing to describe. It's probably easier to just watch. But as it goes over the other color, it kind of gives you this depth, this dimension, this kind of gossamer effect. That's really, if you have the patience to keep going in and adding more layers and adding more layers, you can get some beautiful portraits with oil pencils. Now I'm going to take this color almost back to the edge where we started. Not quite. I want this all the way back at the very beginning to be this pure light umber color. But I'm taking our Clay Rose and I'm bringing it out here, pretty far so it stands alone. You can kind of see that purpley color by itself. And then we're just going to work it right back almost all the way, but not all the way. Just nice and light. You're just think of it as you're making a sandwich. You're building a sandwich. You had a layer of turkey and then you put a slice of cheese, and now we're adding some salami. You're just building layers. pretty close. Now I'm not bringing it all the way. Now obviously we're going to do the other side with a different set of pencils. I'm not bringing it all the way to the center, but I'm getting pretty close. We're going to go in with a third color over there. And I am bringing it into her eyelid area. Just remember to just, you know, be patient. Coloring is a soothing thing. It's a repetitive motion thing. It's very calming. Just going to bring our little layer of clay rose right on around to her cute little button nose and mouth over here. And we're not going to fill in the apple of her cheek yet. And I think this weekend, last weekend we had a chat room in our Facebook group. If anyone had questions on something they were working on, they could hop in and ask. I think we might do that again this coming Sunday. So if you haven't already joined my Facebook group, BadA Art, I'll put the link in the description below. Come on over, join us, and share with me your badass colorings. I would love to see them. And then this weekend, if you are having some problems or you want to ask some questions, you can jump on over in the chat room and ask away, and I will do my best to answer your art questions. Okay, so we've gone over. Now I'm adding just kind of like a second bit of color on here. This would be like a second layer of this color. We're just layering up. We're just building it up, and it just kind of gives this kind of organic feel. I'm kind of tongue-tied today. Really gives it a level of realism. I'm going to put this pencil aside and grab this one. It's Light Peach FT 109. Ooh, let's see. I'm not doing a very good job on my camera duties today. I'm going to do this exactly the way we did the clay rose. I'm just starting just below it, and then I'm going to layer it right over and bring that right back. So now we have even more layers going over this, and you can see how that dimension, it just kind of keeps building up, kind of like with the hair. You know, the more colors we add, the more it builds up, you know. It gives us all these different shades and valleys and all this, you know, it just gives us an added realism that makes your portrait really believable. Oils really do that when you start layering them up like this. It's kind of like oil painting. You know, a lot of oil painters, they have to be incredibly patient because you have to let the painting dry, and then you come back and you give it another coat of paint. You know, you come back and you do another layer and another layer. So you have to be really patient when you work with oils because there's a lot of dry time involved. Luckily, we don't have dry time. We just have to be patient with ourselves. Just kind of working this in, and then work all the way. Not quite as far back as we went with the pinker color, but we want to get all of these little edges nice and soft. Any little spot that looks least bit jagged, we're just going to go rub, you know, just nice soft circles. Smooth that right out. Until we just have this seamless, soft, angelic little face. And I think that, you know, for our next few portrait tutorials, we'll stick with this book. This is a good book. It's got a lot of really good portraits in it that we can practice. So if you've got this one at home, awesome. Feel free to follow along. And we'll just explore different pencils that are oil versus wax. If you have other questions like these, absolutely let me know. I'm always happy to do videos and answer as many questions as I can. It's helpful to know what you're struggling with. Now I'm even going to go right to the middle of her nose, and we're going to blend these two sides right in together, and we're going to make it perfect. Because we can do anything. And this one will probably be a little bit longer, but that's okay. We're on a mission today. Now this was just 3 colors. You can add, I'll go back obviously when I'm done with the other side, and we'll add in some cheek color and some lip color. But for right now, we've only used 3 colors, and we've got a really nice looking face going, if I do say so myself. Okay, we're gonna leave these to the side. These were our oil pencils. Now I'm gonna bring out some Prismas. Those are wax-based. They're pretty famous for being wax-based. Now I don't have exact matches, so I'm gonna pull out our older pencils. This was light umber, and I'm sure there's an umber in here, but this one's French gray. It was just the quickest one. Let me see, what's this one? This one's sepia. Actually, I'm going to use sepia. And this is just, you know, when I'm like follow along, you know, whatever brand you're using at home, you can grab something similar, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. You don't have to be using the same brand of pencils. So, wax, they're super soft. You have to sharpen them more often. They're very creamy. I have a hard time with my hands. I have a lot of arthritis. I have some, you know, some joint issues. That being said, if there's someone out there who has arthritis and joint issues, if you have a hard time hanging on to things, if your grip, you know, gets weak after a while, if you struggle with your hands getting tired, wax pencils might be a good option for you. You don't have to put as much effort into pressing the pencil down to get a lot of yield. They are very effortless. They are easy to use. They're also very creamy when it comes to blending. So let's jump in. This one is sepia. It's number PC948. And I'm gonna just grab right here. Now automatically you can see how much color I'm getting. Now where we blended the colors one on top of the other on the other side to get this graduation of color with the wax, we don't have to do that. These colors are going to blend whenever we tell them to blend. They're going to do whatever we say. We want this darker color around the outside of her little hairline here. We're going to add that in. This all comes down to shading pretty much later instead of blending. So we're going to add this in. And it's so soft and so easy. I'm barely touching the paper, and you can see how much color it's giving me. And that's why it's easier on your hands. You know, you just really don't have to give it a lot of pressure. If I'm having I call it a good hands day or a bad hands day. If I'm having a bad hands day, if I'm dropping pencils, or, just having more pain than usual, I'll switch over to a Prisma or an Indra or Black Widows because they're softer and I don't have to struggle as much to really push in and get some yield for my effort. Didn't mean to bump into you. Now I'm just kind of placing this color more than covering ground with it. And the reason is it just blends in differently. I'm kind of switching gears and making sure her little eye is good and shady. I also feel like wax pencils are faster. I cover more ground faster. That might just be me. That might be completely in my head. And if that's the truth, I'm okay with that. I'll admit that. But I feel like I'd get more done faster with wax. Like I don't have to concentrate. I don't have to spend as much time. It's like, it's just, I don't know. You guys will have to try them out and let me know if you're the same way, or do you think it's easier with oils? Just let me know what your observations are once you guys have tried them both out. I'm going to set the sepia aside. Now we used this clay, I think this was called what, Clay Rose? Yeah. This one in Prisma is called Clay Rose. It's the exact same color. This one is PC 1017. So they're called the same thing. Hopefully they're similar. They look pretty similar. Now I'm just going to add this color. I'm just going to go in. I'm not really going backwards too much. Just kind of adding it in. And you can see, the pigment's quite a bit stronger. The colors are good. We're good. but you can literally swirl these two colors around. They are so soft that these two colors will become one with nothing underneath. Let me show you. We're down to grayscale. They just smooth right in together. It's really, really amazing how it's almost like the friction or something of the wax. It melts it or something, and it just kind of melts into it. And it doesn't do that so much with the oil pencils. You have to continue to add more layers on top. With the wax, with this, it's almost like a candle, you know, it kind of melts into each other or something. At least that's my experience. You guys will have to tell me how you fare with them. And I hope that this is helpful, you know, I hope this helps you, you know, the next time you're in your coloring books to feel, you know, don't ever feel intimidated. Art's a journey, and we are definitely in charge. This is pigment and paper, and we can get this stuff to do pretty much whatever we want. There are very few accidents that we can't fix. Just, you know, even spilling a cup of coffee across it, we can make it look pretty good. So, yeah. You guys just try these little techniques out. Don't let it intimidate you, and enjoy it. Just absolutely enjoy the process. I think all of us are kind of taught to be intimidated by art, which is sort of a shame. Now, as this sets, it's not quite as, it's got a little more red in it than its counterpart over here, in my opinion. They're not exactly the same. I need to stay on this side of the paper. It's a bad habit. I just start picking at everything. Also, you'll notice that this pencil has more bloom. And what I mean by bloom is the little crumbs when you're coloring. Also, some people call bloom, like when you're working with oil pencils, there's like a waxy buildup on the top of your coloring. Some people call that bloom as well. I've always called bloom those little crumbly things that come up off of the pencil as you're pressing down. That's what I was taught in school, so that's what I've always referred to it as. I've heard it called bloom for both things. There's some art trivia there for you. Terminology. But as a rule, wax pencils tend to have more bloom. And I think it's because they're softer. Okay, now I'm going to set that one up there. Now also we will find something that's comparable in the Prismas to this light peach. This one looks pretty close. It's called Seashell Pink, number PC 1093. And I'm going to just kind of continue on. And you can see, I'm also going to just go over all of these other colors and grab them and swirl them all kind of together. This is a heavier looking pencil. I'm going to zoom you back in again and move you over a little. It's a heavier pencil. It's got a heavier coverage of the paper. Smooth this out up here where we kind of merge the two pencils together. And it's easier for me personally if I'm blending two different pencil brands together to use Prismas. They just kind of, they're like the kings of blending. That's my personal preference for uniting two different brands if you're doing that sort of thing. And as you can see, it's bringing these two together pretty seamlessly. It's definitely a heavier coverage of product with less effort. But you do run through product more. By the time I'm finished with this, I'll need to sharpen it again, where with the colors, I still had a pretty sharp point. And that's just part of it. You know, you go through product. We're consumers, we're using a product. Prismas are beautiful pencils, they really are. And I don't use them like I used to. But you just kind of move along, kind of go over everything really nicely one time. Gives everything that nice, even porcelain look. I'm not going to go over into the other side. I'm just sort of joining the two together here. Now, of course, you can go back and grab that light peach color from the colors to smooth out anything you want on the left-hand side. But that's what those three colors mixed together looks like as a skin tone. And I'm taking it all the way. And it does just grab up that darker color and blends right together. Sorry if I'm shaking you. Let me back it out a little bit. I hope I didn't get too far off camera, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not a techie. Filming isn't my specialty, but I sure am trying. And there you have it. Let me back out a little bit more so that you can see. One side is a little bit darker. And if you were at home following along, obviously you would have done both sides with the same set of pencils. You would have a flawless finish. But they're both very smooth, very creamy. Let me zoom back in again. You can see just very subtle differences. This one is a little bit lighter. You can see a little more of the paper grain underneath. This one has a little bit more of a burnishing effect. This one you can't really see the graduation of colors underneath. Everything's been kind of grabbed and swirled and mixed in together. This one you can still see the dark, the medium, the light. You can see a little bit more of that shadow differentiation. So there's a couple of differences right off the bat. This is just our first lesson. Since we're already up at 40 minutes, I'll go ahead and close this one out for the day. But like I said, we will do 2 or 3 more of these this week. And we'll make sure that you guys are feeling comfortable with the difference between wax and oil pencils. If there's a specific brand that you'd like me to use, give me a shout in the comments. Let me know what you'd like me to use. If I have that brand, I'll be happy to use it in one of the videos coming up. Okay, everybody, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I hope you will. I try to upload 4 videos a week. I'm not going to say which days anymore because lately it's kind of been a toss-up and my days haven't been consistent. I'm just definitely getting 4 videos up every week. If this video was helpful, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. That's very helpful for the channel. It helps other people out there who are looking for videos like these, who want art tips and tricks to hang out with us, be a badass artist too. Okay, everybody, I'll put the link to my BadA Art group over on Facebook. I'll put that link in the description below. I hope everybody is enjoying the tutorial. I will see you next time.